fiends, friends, and familiars. This is Matt Orozco here from Macabre Daily, and I'm joined by a familiar face today. It's Rhys Frake-Waterfield, who is the writer, director, co-creator, in fact, of the entire Poohniverse. And we're here to talk about a little gentleman sitting behind you today, Pinocchio Unstrung. So, Rhys, thank you so much for spending some time with me.
Oh, thanks, Matt. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Always. I'm always excited when I see a new Poohniverse film is coming our way because I have, as I wrote in my review, which is yet to be released, I fucking love these movies. I think they're so much fun, and the universe that you've built is just increasingly getting better and better with each film. But this is a big, I don't want to call it a big swing to do a disservice, but this has a lot of just there's a lot more in Pinocchio and Strong than there has been in some previous films. So what has allowed you all to now bring in folks like Todd Masters and actors like Richard Brake to help complement the great work you've been doing in these films?
Yeah, so I think one of the elements is the films are getting better and better. So you can kind of see from Blood and Honey 1 to Blood and Honey 2, people are liking the films more and more. And then that does help you kind of attract talent as well. Because off the scores of Blood and Honey 1, I don't know if I'd get many named actors. Well, if I'm completely honest. But they've been getting better and better each one. A lot of people have been seeing that. So yeah, I hope you think the same when you saw Pinocchio. Um, so that was one element is and also just naturally as filmmakers, the more films you do, it's the same as like any job, just the better and better you get at the job. The scripts kind of become better, your understanding of how to direct and pull off more fun and better sequences, that all improves. And the result is those improvements in the scripts kind of translates, and then when people do read that, they're then able to kind of come on board. Me and Scott are massive fans of old school horror as well. So you can kind of see by the people we've chose to be part of or asked to be part of Pinocchio Unsprung. You've got Robert England voicing the cricket. You've got Richard Brake, and he was in all the kind of old schooly kind of Rob Zombie films. You've got Todd Masters. He's been around the industry forever, and he's worked on like Nightmare on Elm Street films. And he's kind of like a master of puppets as well. So all of these guys I kind of wanted to bring on board to bring the best kind of version of Pinocchio to the screen I could.
Yeah, and I think you have. I mean, I agree that these films are getting better, but I think that I also want to put a caveat in saying that that doesn't mean that any of these have been bad. It's just that I think that your ability as a filmmaker and especially as a storyteller has just gotten better and better. Especially from, I think Blood and Honey too. There's a marked kind of distinction in terms of the visual style you use to present these characters. They're far more visceral and they're more real as opposed to kind of being folks in mass. We now can believe these as characters. But this time you're working with a puppet. How was it working with a puppet as opposed to, traditionally you've had actors in these roles?
Yeah, it's a nightmare. So puppets are, well, in the story of Pinocchio, craftsmanship is integral to it. Geppetto literally makes him. So we wanted to make him as well and have him physically there. And that was a decision I made early on to go down a puppet route with him. But they're really hard to work with. I've heard people say with filmmaking, never work with puppets, children, animals. And yeah, I picked two of the three in
Yeah,
this one.
right.
Yeah, and it's some of the elements which are hard are if you want him to, I don't know, even grab something from the side. A normal actor is you can just set the shot up and then they can just grab the item. With him, you've literally got to detach his arms, add on different arms. Someone needs to puppeteer the arms. It kind of doesn't really work. Probably takes about 10 takes to just pick the thing up. So it's a lot more onerous, I guess, to get those shots and get those moments. But I think that's what, with that extra difficulty, it gives the film a kind of charm and kookiness to it that you can't really replicate that in like through a VFX or a digital route because it's a little bit janky. But I like the jankiness. I think that shows it was practically there on set and it gives it a kind of uniqueness, especially in like the world right now with AI being so dominant.
Yeah, I mean, I think people appreciate the tactile nature of practical effects, and I think that's why particularly in genre films, we're seeing so much more people going that route as opposed to just deferring to CGI. In fact, most of the CGI we see is either just in kind of a one-off shot or and kind of adding to the effects. Like we've already got the blood, but we need a little bit more to really make it
Mm,
sing the way we want it to. So I think that not only do people appreciate the dedication and also the work and challenge that brings working with a puppet, but I think you're right that it does provide just a better viewing experience, and it also harkens back to the '80s movies that people love to always reference in terms of horror. Is like that's what we loved about them, is that they weren't perfect, but they felt real, and that's I think what we get here. And I think another credit I want to give to you is around the story. I mean, this could not be further from Carlo Collodi's, actual story, but in a way, it works extremely well, especially in consideration of, without going into spoilers, like how Pinocchio comes to be. Um, what were some of the things you were wanted to do to try and deviate from the story? Because all of these have kind of divorced themselves entirely from their source material, but this one, in a way, kind of feels almost uniquely its own.
yeah, so yeah, the original Pinocchio story is far darker than the one which is normally portrayed to the world, so, i.e. the Disney ones. But the version which has been kind of repeated a lot seems to follow the same sort of plot points. And it's always down a more family friendly route. I didn't want to do that because there's so many of them out there. I wanted to just try and make loads of different changes with it and really just take wild swings. So one of those elements are the kind of original blue fairy and the cricket. I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if rather than both of them being on the force of good, which is trying to lead Pinocchio down the right path, which they still potentially could have been in this story. I thought it'd be way more interesting to completely subvert them and change them and make them the forces of corruption. So you've got this innocent boy, and it's like these adults are like manipulating him and kind of steering him down a wrong path, and kind of what the consequences of that could be. So I'm hoping some of those. I think that was a very interesting element to bring in. Ultimately, the story of Pinocchio is also about his main goal is to be human, and that's kind of what he's been seeking in every single version of the Pinocchio story. So, like whoever's told it, so that lends itself, I think, to quite a interesting, like tragic and body horror kind of route. So that was another element. I thought, okay, that's another idea I want to take it down. And then in terms of his how he came to be, there are some elements which are there's kind of hinted at elements of resurrection from the original story and how the grandson was kind of reborn through it. So I wanted to try and incorporate some of that, but just twist it a little bit as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a particular scene involving organs that I thought is just such a hoot. And I think people are gonna love it when they see it because it's funny, it's gross, and it's exactly what you want to see when you show up and sit in the theater to watch something like Pinocchio Unstrung. And you all have been so busy building this universe. And I'm curious to one like think about in reflection, how do you think you as a filmmaker have kind of grown and developed? Because you've been working on this for feels like straight 5, 6 years now, right? So it's like, how do you, in reflection, how do you think you've changed and either become better, or maybe more efficient in how you produce?
Yeah, so there's a I try and do a lot of components of the filmmaking kind of scope. So when I do a film, I like to write, direct, and edit. I've done that on all three of them, and I think it because it massively improves your understanding of just filmmaking as a whole. When you're doing all of these elements, you're not just isolated to just directing. You get an understanding of building a more kind of coherent story, which isn't just gore. It has a kind of emotional core to it as well. That starts to come through, and that's something I feel like I've developed a lot into. And then um, knowing when how to control the scope of the film a bit, because some of these are like in Blood and Honey 2, I got very, very ambitious. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to kill like 50 people in this. And I had so many deaths. And something quite challenging with that is it just ended up being headshot after headshot after headshot. And I thought, okay, like I need to vary this up a bit. Like that was some feedback I got. A lot of people felt there was just too many headshots in there. So that's something I tried to incorporate into Pinocchio. So and that lends itself quite well to the doll seeking to become human as well, because he wants different parts. So there's an emphasis on different areas. So like you were saying, the organs makes a lot of sense for one of those scenes. And then another one, he's after hair. So that made the death scenes a bit unique and distinctive. And just in general, the more films you do, you start to get more and more of a appreciation and ability to just like the language of like cinema. And I know that sounds strange, but it's like knowing when to hold on, close-ups with people, when you're going to need certain reactions, and just that starts to develop in the back of your mind and like imprint itself. And then when you're on set, all of those lessons they come out. And you're like, when you're directing, it's like, okay, yeah, I need. It's really important to get this kind of reaction shot at this moment. And I think that makes the sequences a lot more interesting. So, for example, when Pinocchio first appears and he comes out of that hole in the wall, I feel like that whole sequence, there's a nice build up of like mystery and tension towards it,
Yeah.
which you don't really have in like some of in my previous films.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think you do. The reveal is so much fun, especially with like the scattering around beforehand. It
Mm.
really does lend itself nice to the mystery. And I know you've got to move on to other interviews, but I want to say for everyone watching this, July 24th, get your ass to the theater, see Pinocchio Unstrung. And I know that you're working with the boys over at Splattercast and Rockland Graves on Blood and Honey 3. So eager to hear more about that when that's available. But Rhys, it's always a pleasure. Congratulations on this film, and I can't wait for the next one.
Oh, thanks so much, Matt. Thank
Talk
you.
to you later.
Cheers. Bye.
Right. Hello, fiends, friends, and familiars. This is Matt Orozco here with Macabre Daily, and I'm joined by someone who should be a familiar face to those that watch our interviews, Scott Chambers, who is the producer of the forthcoming rather, Pinocchio Unstrung, but also a key part of the Twisted Childhood universe, the Poohniverse, as we sometimes call it. So, Scott, thank you so much for making some time to speak with me again.
Oh no, thank you so much.
As I just told Reese a few minutes ago, absolutely enjoyed the hell out of Pinocchio Unstrung, and I feel like there's just been this rhythm you've all been on since Blood and Honey 2 that has kind of found these films just getting exponentially better and better. But this one in particular, has just so much in terms of the way of practical effects, bringing in folks like Todd Masters and also
Hmm.
some really marquee name actors like folks like Richard Brake and Robert Englund. So as the producer, what are some of the things that you are most concerned about in terms of budget and things like that as you're bringing in what seems like just a lot more firepower and maybe even more cost?
Yeah, I think going into it, the puppet was. I think we both underestimated that situation. That was especially when the lead character it is genuinely Pinocchio. Like he's in nearly the entire film. Like it's about his journey and well, his and James's. Yeah, I think the puppet. Obviously, we were very lucky to work with Todd Masters. I think him and his team are really really talented. But obviously, because they're union performers, when they came over to the UK, they actually couldn't operate the puppet. And I think we've very much underestimated what went into that, like the amount of um, mechanics that went into just moving a hand, the face, the eyes. That there was so many different devices just to move it, and I think we all had a go at doing it, and we all had to kind of learn. And I think that is the restraints of having a budget this low. Like I am excited for the day where truly I can hopefully we'll get there soon where all of that stuff is in the right hands, but I think stuff like that was underestimated, and that was extremely hard in the end, especially in post-production, because there were certain things on green screen that we had to do on a pickup day and put them in, and that was again an expense not anticipated. And then obviously well, a surprise was the Richard Brake and Robert England, just how easygoing they were. Like there was no, I really mean this. Like, obviously, Robert, we worked with just in an ADR session, but Richard was there in some of the most worst conditions. We were filming in November in England. It's freezing
Oh,
cold. But genuinely, I mean this. I really, really mean this. He's truly amazing. Like, he was such a genuine delight to work with. Like, one of the best actors, truly. Like, the passion, just how he so got behind me and Reese as soon as he really got on board with what we were doing, and because he signed on to this with really just Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey out. And yeah, I get it that you look at that and it's scary to trust us really, because you look at it and people don't know instantly that it was this really cheap £20,000 film filmed in 5 days. You just look at it as a product and go, "Is this what they're capable of?" And it's like, no, but he believed in us, and he's just amazing. So yeah,
I mean, I think he feels like a consummate professional in every regard. And you also give him a chance in this film to kind of stretch his more dramatic legs a bit and not have to be just like the heavy or kind of the big bad.
yeah,
And I think all of that goes to making what is essentially an extremely fun film. And I'm
no,
curious, kind of since you've been a part of this since pretty much day one, going through all
mm,
of these films, what have you experienced being the biggest change in terms of how they've been made, starting from Blood and Honey all the way now to what are you, almost five films in now, and it's like going
yeah,
into
yeah.
sixth and even more. So, what are some of the changes that you've been that have been most notable to you?
Well, the changes is just like so, as we go in and we're kind of proving ourselves little by little. It's just the talents that are seeing the work we're putting in and seeing that outcome, that output, and then believing in us and then taking a chance. Like my new Winnie the Pooh, I'm so happy with how he looks, and I don't know if that team would have came on board without seeing progression. And I do get it because people, these are low budget films, and your time is worth something, and they're doing it for very low pay. So I think that is a big thing. And then obviously approaching each project, and I didn't want them all to feel like the same, especially where we're leading towards Poohniverse Monsters Assemble. I need you to feel a certain way about characters so that when you get to that film, you have a certain, oh, I don't like that one. Like, for example, you need to not like Peter Pan, because when you get to that
Right.
film, we don't have much time to kind of go around the bat, explain who is who and why you don't like them and why you like this one. So I need the films to kind of give you that. So I feel like approaching the film and thinking like what tone will fit it the best has been a big thing. And we've just been taking criticism in, and what fans want, especially mostly fans, like people that really enjoy these films. What do they want from these, and what are they enjoying?
Well, I know that you all are very fan focused because I'm good friends with the
Yeah,
Splattercast boys and Rockland Graves, and I know that they're even a part of the next Blood and Honey. So I think that there
yeah,
is this kind of community you've built around people in the horror space who not only
yeah.
want to see you all succeed, but also want to be a part of the madness.
Oh,
And as you're kind of thinking beyond Pinocchio Unstrung, what are some of the what can you tell us about the Poohniverse? Because I'm so on with you in terms of it's so nice that we have these kind of origin stories that we won't have to get to know each one of them like an
yeah.
Avengers movie. We can just dive right in. So, anything you're able to share about the direction you're thinking in terms of plot, anything like that, it'd be fascinating to
Mm,
hear. And if
yeah.
you can't,
It's
that's okay too.
yes. It's so hard. I'll try and give you something, but yeah. Well, what you're going to get is you're going to get all the survivors back. So all the survivors that have kind of got to that point, you're going to get them all back. And one thing I can say is truly, 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 me and Reese do not like the type of films where you know who the hero is and they're all going to survive. I don't like that. The film will mean nothing. And I feel like Christopher Robin, even though it's me, genuinely kill me if it makes sense. Like, and if I'm not going to get out of a situation, kill him. Do you know what I mean? And same with Wendy and all of them. So I feel like genuinely you can go into this and the stakes are really high, because it's not like I love Scream, by the way. I love Scream, but I always know who's going to survive those films. Do you
Right.
know what I mean? Like it's kind of easy. This, I trust me, they could all go. So yeah.
I love that. I mean, part of keeping people on their toes, as you all have done so well up to this point, is subverting expectations, right? I think so much
Yeah.
of, especially Peter Pan, it still remains kind of top tier for me in terms of
Oh, thank you.
taking the original story and doing something wildly different, but also something that works extremely well. And I'd say the same with Pinocchio Unstrung in that it almost carves its own path in a way that makes it barely recognizable to its source material, but in the best way possible. So, Scott, I know you've got interviews to do today. Just want to say thank you for the time.
Oh,
Congratulations on yet another film in the can and out to the public. And please, for everyone watching this, July 24th, get your ass to the theater, sit down, and enjoy the hell out of Pinocchio Unstrung. Take care, Scott.
oh, thank you. See you.